All right. Good morning, Gators. Welcome back to another episode from our Gator Registration Series. Today, we're going to be talking about the Degree Progress Report, the DPR, as we call it here, um, to talk a little bit about what it is as a tool in relation to registering for classes, but also in some ways a graduation checklist to make sure that you are taking the appropriate classes in your major as well as general education requirements. And so first we're going to start off on how to get there. So first you're going to want to get to your student center. The way to get to your student center, we've gone over this in a previous video. You can go to the main SF State website, click on Gateway. From Gateway, click on Student Center, and it's going to bring you to a page that looks very similar to this. And then what we're going to get to is on the left-hand side under Academics. As we've seen all these different tabs here before, we've gone through a couple of these in our previous videos when it comes to enrolling. But today we're going to stick with the one that says Degree Progress Report. Okay. We're going to click on that. It's going to take a little bit to load. You'll see the load button here on the right-hand side. Perfect. Here we go. Okay. So starting from the top, we're just going to kind of go through this top down. And I'm going to kind of give you guys some insights into what to be looking for when you are looking at this page here, and just kind of how to keep on track and to kind of understand the degree that you're pursuing at SF State. And also in tangent with utilizing our advising resources and why coming to our center is really beneficial when you want to go over this, or if you have questions about what this might mean on your degree progress report. We highly encourage you to stop by our center and talk to someone to kind of get some clarification. Okay, so at the top here, this is just our test account here, but your name would be here, your ID number. You'll see these different tabs. They all go to kind of something a little bit different, but right now we're under this My Academics Degree Progress Report tab. Okay, these two boxes here, this one is current academic objective. So this is going to go over specifically what the degree is that you're pursuing, when you started here, and stuff like that. So as we kind of go from top down, we see that this is an undergrad degree that we are in, right, of fall 2025. Our plan, part of our plan was an anthropology. That's what our anthropology blended. In this case, yours could say, biology, a BA in biology, or cinema, or, a business degree. And then when you started that. And then here is also another part of our plan. So if we have a minor, it'll also show up here and it'll say what the minor, it'll say what it is that you're studying for your minor, and then MN is labeled as minor, BA as Bachelor of Arts. Okay, this right here is the graduation status. So this, as of right now, says not applied. That just indicates that we haven't applied for graduation. But if you're a senior and you're going into your final semester and you've applied for graduation, when you come back to your degree progress report, it'll indicate the semester that you've applied for. So, in this case, in this previous one, it would have been like a spring 2025 applicant or something like that. Okay. This is the current academic summary, just indicating what your last term registered was, right? So this one right now is showing fall, so we've registered for fall 2025. Your academic standing, if there is one here, and then your overall, and then your SF State GPA. Overall GPA, this includes SF State courses as well as courses that you might have transferred in with. And then the SF State GPA is specifically designed around SF State courses that you have taken. Okay, so as you can see here, there's a slight difference in this example, but yours could be different depending on if you're a transfer student, or maybe you started here as a freshman, but you took some community college classes, and that would also, play into effect to your overall. Okay. Then we get down to the general information box here. This is probably the most important box that we can go over in order for you to understand kind of what follows in the symbols and what they mean. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we will see degree audit icons, and we're just going to go over what this kind of means, or I'm going to give you kind of what this means and which ones are usually used the most. Okay, so pretty simple. A green check mark means that it is complete. So the requirement is complete. It'll show a green check mark. It means that you've already done it. okay? Yellow kind of diamond is currently in progress. This really indicates that you are currently in the process of completing that course, right? So when you register for a class, in this case, fall 2025 class, you are currently taking that course. It has not been finalized yet. So it has neither been complete or incomplete, right? It's currently in the process. And your grade on that will depend on whether or not it gets a complete status. Okay. This one, we're just going to skip this one. This one isn't really utilized. So plan for future, not important when you're looking at this. And then the red box, the not complete. So when you're first starting out and you're looking at this, you'll have a lot of these red boxes. And this is just to indicate that this is a requirement that you're missing, that you still need to have done in most cases. Okay. And so when you're thinking about classes that you're going to be taking in upcoming semesters, when you're seeing requirements that have, red boxes, it's usually an indication that that might be your next step in what you should be looking to take. Okay. And then this purple triangle here with an exclamation mark, this is an exception or an override. This is usually showcased for courses that have been filled out from a waiver, or a major department has approved a course that you've met somewhere, that you've done somewhere else, and that it has been manually overridden to meet a requirement that maybe wasn't met when you first started attending here. And so these are usually in cases where you've talked to an advisor. And so if you have a question about maybe a class that you feel like you've completed somewhere else and you want to get an idea whether or not you can meet that credit, you should come to our office and see how we can help you obtain this. Okay. This is on the right-hand side. The only one that really matters that we haven't gone over yet is this arrow, this green arrow, transfer, test, or other credit. This is a symbol that indicates courses that have transferred in, and it'll be listed as transfer credit. When we scroll down here, I'll show you guys an example, but it's a green arrow that indicates a course that you've transferred from somewhere else. Okay. So as we scroll down here, we're going to click expand all so that we can see kind of all the requirements that we're going through. And I'm going to go over really what is the most important information when it comes to looking at this from a student perspective. There are some things that are in here that are really more geared towards advisors assisting you on it. But I'm gonna focus on what you as a student can look at and go from there. Okay. So the top four of earning a degree is to complete these four major bucket requirements. There's general education, university-wide requirements, your major program, and a minor program if you've added a minor. Okay. Let's go ahead and scroll down to general education requirements first. Okay. So top down here, we see that under this kind of blue bar, we have different areas and subcategories from those areas, right? So this is showing the new GE pattern. So students who are starting in the fall semester it'll look something like this with area 1, and then 1A, 1B, 1C. If you started here before fall 2025, yours will look a little bit different in terms of the wording of what the area might be. So instead of 1A, it's going to be area A, so you'll have A1, A2, A3. That kind of verbiage probably makes a little bit more sense to you, but still the same requirement and still what you need to be meeting. So no matter the name change in this case, these are still requirements that you need to complete and are still general education. Okay. So this is the English communication requirement. This is the area 2, the math requirement, or what used to be called the B4 requirement. Okay. Here's another part of the GE's area 3, arts and humanities. And so as you can see, as we're scrolling through this, we see that, these areas are marked red right now, right? So we haven't taken anything that completes those requirements. But when we get down here, we see our first one that is currently in progress, a yellow. So this is currently a course that is being worked on for this requirement. Okay. We can also see here for area 4, we have 2 classes that we registered for in the fall of 2025, and that shows in progress. Okay. And as we keep going, here's area 5, physical and bio, right? Okay. And then another portion that falls within this is our upper division general education. These are typically done once you have completed um, your what we call our golden four, which is the 1A, the 1B, the 1C, and then the area 2. So it's usually English composition, critical thinking, oral comm, and then your math, so quantitative reasoning. Um, Majority of the students that take these usually get to 60 units um, completed, so junior level standing for these courses. As it says here, 60 semester units. That is when you start taking these upper division general education classes. Um, some majors have where one in particular section might fall within this, and so that could be a case where a class meets multiple requirements, but for the most part, you still need to complete all three of these for a total of 9 units. Okay. Then we have the last area, area 6, which is ethnic studies. You'll take a class that is part of that as well, right? So there's 6 areas of general education, and then there's the upper division general education that falls within those. Okay. This box here just goes over minimum units of GE coursework. So we know that there's 43 units minimum of general education. That includes the areas 1 through 6 and the upper division general education to be satisfied. Okay. Move on to the next box here. This is university requirements. So these are kind of things that fall within your degree through courses that you take in order to kind of receive the diploma, in order to complete the bachelor's that you're pursuing. So our first one here is the graduation writing assessment requirement, or the GWAR. This is a course that is specifically implemented into the degree that you're pursuing, so the major that you're pursuing. So for example, if you're a cinema student, you will have a cinema GWAR, or a course within cinema that will be labeled GWAR that you will complete in your degree, and will also complete the requirement here, right? So that's why it's one needed. You just need one of them. Um, these are SF state studies, so these are different kind of requirements that fall that are embedded in courses throughout your time at SF state. So you can usually complete these through your time here, and just from the different variety of classes that you take in general education, upper division general education. And so as you can see here, we have 3 of our 4 requirements already done, and then there's just one here missing in this regard. So there's 4 areas. You just need one class to complete, or one class to complete a certain area, but it's very often in this example here that you might take multiple classes that meet one area. That is totally fine. You just need to make sure you've done at least one for each area. Okay. There's also classes that meet multiple of these areas with one course. Okay. So that's also a possibility. Then down here we have U.S. history and government. This is also similar to SF state studies, a requirement that needs to be completed at the university. U.S. history classes are usually embedded in the area 4 requirement that you can complete, and so that kind of matches. And then U.S. government, California state, local government, also requirements that can usually be satisfied together if you take a course that meets both of these requirements. But these need to be done as well in order to obtain your degree. This is just the minimum grade point average, just a 2.0. You have to stay above that in order to continue at SF State. This is where you can see kind of where you're at if you want to look at that. Resident units, you need to have taken at least 30 units at SF State in order to receive your degree, right? So this really applies to transfer students who are coming in with a certain amount of credits and need to have taken basically 2 full semesters at SF State in order to obtain their degree. 24 of those 30 minimally need to be upper division units, okay? And then here's also the upper division unit section. So 30 units required in that case of what you need to have done. This is the maximum unit limits. So this just indicates that up to 70 units can be transferred from community college. And so here's like a good indication of as we've seen before, of this green arrow showing transfer credit and what it looks like when you see it transferred over. Okay. This is a maximum units taken for credit, no credit. So up to 24 units can be taken for credit, no credit. But it is important to talk to an advisor about what can be taken for credit, no credit, because it does get a little bit tricky when it comes to your major courses and what quantifies as completion. Okay. This is just military credit, credit by exam. This is some more intricate stuff that is not necessarily applicable to every student. Um, and then here is kind of the big picture, the minimum 120 units required for your degree. So as you can see here, we need 120 units minimum to graduate. 106 have been taken and 14 are needed. Part of this 106 includes the classes that are in progress. Okay. So you'll see this portion down here as well, courses completed in progress. We see that we've taken 106, and that includes the ones that are marked yellow here. So the green and yellows are part of this 106, right? So with this, the way that we can kind of look at this in a sense is since we've already registered for fall of 2025, is that is included in the 106. So 14 is left to get to this minimum, just the minimum, right? Um, this does not mean that once you get to 120 that you've completed your degree. Uh, you need to make sure all your requirements are met. But the 120 is the minimum in order to graduate. Okay. And then right below the courses completed in progress is where we get into the major. And everyone's is going to look a little bit different depending on what you're studying. But for the most part, it'll explain a little bit of the bachelor's that you're pursuing, whether it's an arts or a science, the total units required to complete that specific major. So the units that are involved specifically in the major classes. Okay. And then they'll go something to like foundation courses and core requirements and electives and stuff like that. So everyone's will look different, but it still applies that you need to be able to complete the requirements that are going to be showing here. This kind of brings us back to an example of a course that was waived, right? So that's why this symbol is indicated here. But as I kind of scroll down here, you'll notice that these are just in this case anthropology major classes. Here's the GW that we were referring to, the GWAR, right? So if they once this is completed, that graduation writing assessment requirement that we just showed will also be done. Okay. This is just some more foundational stuff. So as I mentioned before, everyone's is going to look a little bit different depending on your degree. Here's electives, and they'll indicate how many you need units wise in each of these different sections. And so everyone's will be a little bit different. Okay. And then let me get down to the secondary part here. So this is complementary studies. So this applies specifically for students who are pursuing a Bachelor of Arts. Usually if you're pursuing a Bachelor's of Arts, you might, your units or your unit total for your degree is a little bit smaller than a Bachelor of Science. And because of that, you need to take what we call complementary studies or units outside of the major up to 12 that you can take as long as you qualify to take them. One of the things that you can do instead of just taking an assortment of randomized of classes is you can pursue a minor, and a minor will automatically complete this requirement. Minors usually tend to be a little bit more than the 12-unit minimum, but if you want to add something on, you totally can. As you can see below here, this is a minor in electrical engineering, so it also has its own little breakdown of the courses that fall within the minor and what needs to be taken here. Okay. But other than that, that is really it in terms of understanding your degree progress report. As I mentioned, I highly suggest visiting our center and doing a degree progress and planning appointment to kind of go over this more in depth and see where you are. But other than that, that is how you read your degree progress report. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.